June the 28th, 2022. Guys, I don't want to make a long video, but I do want to try to make the point about what's going on around the planet now. And we talked about the Great Reset. People have talked about how that would happen. And I think it's all in place now, and it could happen at any moment. And when something like this happens, more than likely it will occur, as some of the experts are talking about, on a Sunday night. You wake up Monday morning, and this will have occurred. What we're talking about is the U.S. petrodollar coming to an end. And how would that happen? It would be that nations have set up another system backed by gold, and hundreds of other nations around the planet have agreed to join them, and they've already started doing it, and already people are using the Chinese yuan backed by gold. Russia has joined. Their ruble is backed by gold. Now, Saudi Arabia, OPEC, many other nations have joined, and this could happen at any moment. In other words, once all the nations turn to a different currency than the U.S. petrodollar, then the dollar collapses because it is fiat currency. It's really not backed by anything, thanks to Richard Nixon in '71. That was the end of the U.S. dollar. It took this long to get here, but if you keep printing and printing and printing, it finally catches up with you. So the People's Bank of China has announced it's developing this yuan reserve with 5 other nations. Now, as well as the nations we're going to talk about here, and the killer is now Saudi Arabia and OPEC, is that I think 190 other nations are looking at this and are ready to go to get away from the bullying of the U.S. petrodollar for the last several years. But the 5 nations that China's working with now, the major ones are Hong Kong and Singapore, because they already have Russia. Russia has their initiatives with the pipelines that scan through Europe. China has the Silk Road or the Silk Belt Initiative, to where they're in every country now. The major highways that they have developed are for transporting commerce. They're not really for the people, and they're all guarded by military to keep it flowing and to, keep it controlled. It says in May, China's foreign exchange reserves, and this was the buildup. This is how they got this gold backing. The world's largest group for the first time this year in 2022. The People's Bank of China is building a yuan reserve with 5 other nations in collaboration with the Bank for International Settlements. Now, there you go. That's the main core of the whole thing. If they agree to handle this, then you don't need the U.S. dollar. What is that going to mean? That on that Monday morning that you wake up, your dollar in the banks is going to be worthless. The dollars in your billfold will be worthless. How are you going to feed your family? That's what we're talking about. This is what the World Economic Forum with Klaus and those guys was talking about. The Great Reset. You'll have nothing and you'll be happy. How do you have nothing? Because the currency that you've been leaning on forever is gone overnight. That's what's coming. China's teaming up with Indonesia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Chile to each contribute 15 billion yuan, about 2.2 billion, to a renminbi liquidity arrangement. China's central bank said in a Saturday statement, when in need of liquidity, participating central banks would not only be able to draw down on their contributions, this 2.2 billion, but would also gain access to additional funding through this collateralized liquidity window, kind of like the Feds, but except that the Feds are no longer backed by gold. The world is fixing to drop it like a hot potato, the U.S. petrodollar, and it's going down. The banks will collapse. They will implode. They will bail in. The housing markets will collapse. It says, per the report, the funds will be stored with the Bank for International Settlements. The announcement follows Russia and China's endeavor to develop a new reserve currency with other BRICS countries. This was also announced by Putin this week. So the point of the video, guys, is are you prepared? Do you have cash in the bank, or do you have it stored or whatever that you could turn it into real things like food or protection? or fuel storage, whatever it is, water, make sure all those things, again, protection. But this basket of currencies would present a U.S.-dominated IMF alternative. That's what we're talking about. And include contributions from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. India's signing up. They're already taking money from, I think, Nigeria or one of the African countries. They are already trading, and they're oil rich. They're already trading in this digital yuan. The matter of creating the international reserve currency based on the basket of currencies of other countries is under review. Putin told the BRICS Business Forum on Wednesday, according to a TASS report, we are ready to openly work with all fair partners. It's ready to go. They have worked with China. They have both bought up the gold. A couple of months ago, reports emerged of a Saudi oil deal priced in the Chinese yuan. Do you understand that is the death knell of the U.S. dollar? Do you understand that you will have nothing, but you will not, it won't be, but you will like it? It's just that he should have said, but you won't be able to do anything about it, as he smiled. They said that a deal done without dollars could signal unease and relying too heavily on the U.S. currency. Why? Because of the trade embargoes and all the things that they do to bully the world. While any deal would be symbolic, the Chinese are not alone in the search for a non-dollar reserve currency. Other countries' need for a dollar exposes them to the U.S. financial sector and consequently gives the U.S. political leverage. That's what I'm talking about. The sanctions, the embargoes. Because if you don't go along with that, they won't trade in U.S. dollars and you can't buy oil and things like that. Those days are over. The switch is going to hit. What day, we don't know, but it's going to be very soon because Russia's tired of it. They're tired of the West. China's task is designed to conquer the world. And why not offer all the other nations an alternative to what the U.S. has become? Because when the overnight withdrawal from the Middle East that just happened, that signaled a weakness. That's why Saudi Arabia is now turning to China and Russia for protection, because the deal with Saudi Arabia the whole time, all these years, was that we would protect them, supply them material, supply them training for their military stuff, and provide all of that. We would protect them. Well, that signaled to them that we were no longer in a position and didn't care about it. So they turned to China and Russia. And that's what we're dealing with, guys. You better understand what I'm saying, and you better look at where your money is. Turn everything into physical assets that you can hold in your hand. The banks are already set up for this. Remember, after 2008 or 2007, instead of bailout, it's bail-in, because now your deposits are considered part of the bank. It's the bank's money. It's an investment in the bank, and so when the bank goes down, you go down with it. It will just happen. When the dollar collapses, you won't be able to buy gas or food, if there is any. It's about to hit, and this is how the great reset will happen. Many people have wondered. No, it's not really possible. It's going to be hard. No, it isn't. It's already done. They're just waiting to flip the switch at the right time. Are you ready? We're watching it. You watch it, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.